Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Everything Theater Podcast, the podcast where we talk about,
Everything theater. Hi there, I'm Benita Zahn.
and I'm Ellen Cribbs.
And we are talking today about, listen, it's all important, but one of the most important aspects of a show, and that's what you wear, the costumes.
As we mentioned last week on our little backstage chat, the costume is such a big part of your character. And if you don't have a good costume, then it's so distracting to be on that stage.
Right. And already I can see, and our guest with us today is Kitty Macey. She is a professor of costume and makeup design at SUNY Oswego. She's already nodding in agreement. And
That's
that's just the start of it. Kitty, you have not only been at Oswego for a number of years, but you've designed well over 100 productions there, but you've also done a lot of opera.
yes, I have. Mhm.
And not just in the States. I mean, you've done Oswego. I think a lot of people don't realize that there is an Oswego Opera Theater,
Right.
Pittsburgh Opera Theater Workshop, Bronx Opera. You've also been in Munich.
Yes, I have.
So, girl, the tales from behind the scenes are performers everywhere, or the opera world different than, the stage world?
Opera is a little more heightened than I believe that working with the stage world is. Look at that. I take that back. There are some people in music theater that are just as bad as not bad. I mean, they're just a little more high strung than others. That's
Yeah.
all, and it's you have to, it's how you treat them. I think I treat every actor a very good way. I mean, I try to make them feel comfortable. I try to get them to make choices if there's a problem with their choices, but I try to work with them in making choices.
At what point do you get involved? You and the director when it comes to costuming a show.
Right away. I mean, as soon as the show is chosen. Again, in opera, I was doing mostly hair and makeup. And by that point, I am the last part of it to work out. Like I said, I also worked at Glimmerglass Opera too.
Hmm.
And again, it was hair and makeup. I worked with a very lovely designer, Jose Langson, who is now passed away. But yeah, it was you come in toward the end, so his designs are there, and then what you do is you turn around and try to complete the picture of what he or she is designing.
Do you have a favorite show that you've designed costumes for?
That's a hard one because I've done so many. I think one of my favorite shows has been Much Ado About Nothing. That's one of them. I
Well,
worked with Gary. I worked with Gary Izzo on that one. I don't know if you know Gary. He does the Renaissance Fair here in Sterling, and
Gary
work.
who? I'm sorry, I didn't catch.
Gary Izzo. Gary Izzo.
Oh, he's an Oswego grad.
Yep. Yep.
Mhm.
So I worked with Gary Izzo on Much Ado About Nothing, and he directed it, and it was a really fun show to do with Gary. I've worked well with Gary at the Renaissance Fair too. So yeah, it was a good time.
Is it what makes it fun to design? Is it the working relationship you have with the director? Is it something about the cast? Is it the show itself, the period that you're working in as a designer? You have that moment where you go, "Oh yeah, I can't wait,"
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of them. There's a couple of designers, I mean, a couple of directors that I've really enjoyed working with. And they they are somewhat hands-on, but hands-off. They allow me the kind of freedom that I need. But they said things like, well, I need to have this, I need to have that. And so the directors are a lot of fun, but I also like being the person who is climbing inside the head of the characters. So it's sort of like becoming a psychologist, and you have so many different ways to deal with a particular character, and usually I try to involve the actor in a lot of that too. If again, depends upon the show.
Mhm.
Depends on how much time I have. And I do enjoy that part. I do enjoy climbing in there and showing things to the audience, that even if only a couple of people catch it, that's an exciting piece for me.
We heard someone in our responses that we asked our audience about their costumes, favorite costumes, and so forth. Someone said that the costumer would sit down and actually interview all the cast members and
Mhm.
get a feel for their character and how they wanted to do it. Have you ever done anything like that, or had a costume design that's completely changed once you saw how an actor was interpreting a character? How do you deal with how the actor approaches the character versus how the character looks on the page when you start designing?
It happens much more often with modern shows than it does with period pieces. And it happens with some beginning new musicals. So they know the character because they've been rehearsing it, and I've done designs, but sometimes I have to change. I change the designs because they bring something to it. Or I can remember one. It was called Nobody But Me. I think it was called. It was a musical about high school kids, and of course it's grad students doing the show, and I said, so I brought a design in for this one guy, so it's a real tough guy, and I said, but you can't be that tough. You got, because I gave him a red shirt underneath this denim jacket that had an eagle on the back of it. The eagle was supposed to be talking about flying and being able to be free of the ghetto, the neighborhood that they were part of. And he at first didn't like the idea, and I said, well, I try to explain what eagles are about and what they mean, and he liked it. He eventually liked it, and he was a hard nut to crack, but it worked. So you asked about, yeah, so it's very interesting. As I said, some characters just come to you because things just work their way through, but some of them are tough. And I've had a couple of directors that are really very, very picky, and but that's good because then it keeps you on your toes and makes you do certain things.
Kitty, you ever have an actor come and say to you, I can't wear this. It's
Hmm.
just not speaking to me.
Yeah, I have. And with that, I sit there and we sit down, we talk about it. We say, okay, what is it that you can't see? If it's especially a professional performer, then you have to really sit down and say, okay, what is it that's not part of this? So we talk, and sometimes I have to turn around and change things. There was one individual that I had put into a corset that she absolutely detested. And not only did the director come in to talk to me, and she came in to talk to me, but the choreographer also came in to talk to me. So we sat down and I said, okay, if she's not going to wear a corset, then I have to bone the bodice of the dress. Okay. Because she needs to have the support. So I said, she's going to need support for the diaphragm. Okay. And with me not giving her that, I said, I really do believe there's going to be a problem. I said, so if it doesn't work, we can take the stays out. I'll take them out. Okay. Because if you don't need that stuff to push against, then we won't. Same thing with opera. We wind up having, I remember one person playing in Butterfly, Madame Butterfly, that she demanded to have her obi tied extremely tight because she wanted to have something to push against. So yeah, yeah. But that we settled that one. I said, okay, let's just try it. Well, the one was brought the director and the choreographer in. I said, okay, so how do you want to proceed? And she sat there and she listened to me and she talked about it. And we wound up putting the stays in the dress, not the corset. And she let them in because she liked, it was her performance dress. It was Kiss Me Kate, and it was Kate's dress. And I said, she's got to have that heavy boned kind of look and very stuck up her ass sort of looking thing. Oh, sorry, am I allowed to do that instance?
That's fine.
um
With,
you know
anyone who's been in a production of Kiss Me Kate will understand that completely.
it's like, it's just the I hate men's, the I hate men song is like, she's got to have that kind of presence where her back will not just crinkle. So yeah, so yeah, she liked it, so it worked out.
What's it been like for you going through this pause?
It's been hell on wheels, to be honest with you. It's we have been doing mostly modern shows, and the shows, because we can't touch touch the actors. It's a whole series of quarantining types of things. And you can't have two actors in the same space. Streaming wise, I don't know if you've done any of that, but you really have, there's a whole thing. And my shop supervisor, Judy, is very, very good about all of those kinds of things. She made sure all of the, the wardrobe crew had masks on, and we even had gowns, PP gowns on them, and gloves, just so we wanted to make sure that because they didn't have any masks on. So this has been very difficult. We just did Dog Sees God as the last show for the Blackfriars here on campus. And that went really fun. That was fun because we not only had a very far-sighted young director, again, as a student, he really liked the idea of, I don't know if you're familiar with Dog Sees God, but there's a whole bunch of party scenes in it. And there's a scene where two men kiss. And so what he did was he had one of our actresses was also a graphic design major. And what they did was they actually cartooned those whole sequences. So it was fabulous. It was so great because, the actors did the voiceover for it, and the cartoons did all of the kissing and the fighting and that sort of stuff. So it worked out well. So, she did backgrounds for all of them too, so that they had a cartoon background. So it started the show off that way. And we costume wise, we did Stevie. I took a black windbreaker, and we put a yellow, like a V, an upside down V on it. So it's because it's supposed to be sort of like Charlie Brown. And we didn't know, it's against the rules. It says right in the script, you should not make it like that. So we had to have some license for it. So, but the young man who put the show together, Gio, was I think had some really great ideas.
It's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
One thing to work opera with pros, but to work with kids, and they're young adults,
right?
And the excitement, and they haven't been told no yet, and the world is still in front of them. So you've really been blessed to work in both worlds.
Yeah, I think I have been, because I really enjoy working with a young student. I mean, I've enjoyed teaching them how to do things and figuring out when they finally get something, so it's been really a blessing.
And building during this time for you with a show like that, what kind of constraints? Obviously, you folks have been, PPEs basically to costume
Mm-hmm.
the performers. What else? How else has this time affected your work, your craft?
You can't put more than a couple people in a room. Okay, so Judy, like I said, Judy has been doing very well with, she limits about 7 people in the room in the costume shop. The costume shop is supposed to hold about 30. But with the distancing and stuff, it's seven plus her and me in the room would be about 8 and 9. So that's as high as we can go. And she's building this. It's been difficult because we can't really do heavy duty costumes. Like I said, we did a series for Dog Sees God, and we purchased quite a few instead of making them. But the CB's one we made, and we made a couple of the other girls' skirts and tops. But you have to also fit somebody with a mask. You have to have a mask. So and it's, we're still touching them, but we can't touch them. So you have the gloves on and you have all that stuff. So, and again, when we were doing it with the students performing without the masks, that's when the PPE was on everybody, but we all had our masks on and worked through that. It's been an interesting year and a half. Well, that's what it feels like, year and a half, but it's been, since we shut down in last March. So,
Yeah.
Oh, that was, yeah, we were getting ready to do She Kills Monsters at that point, which is, the director was going to do it. Really, we had Zoe Morissette came in to design some of the monsters for it, and she's from New York City. And so she came in, and we were doing it with black light. So we had been working with black light for a couple of months, trying to figure out what's going to show, what isn't going to show. And we had, they got at least one rehearsal with all of the fight choreography done, and the director filmed it. But that was it. But that show just that show went into mothballs from there. And I don't think it's going to get resurrected at this point. It just doesn't. So it's all the stuff that was built for it that just is gonna go over here for a while.
Heartbreaking.
It is. I think it was more heartbreaking for the director than it was for the rest of us, because we were just started to build most of the stuff. So, if you're familiar with it, there's all of the Kaibolts and these monsters and these bugbears, and so we had just started working on that and getting a big chunk of it, the parts of it done, but. No, it was heartbreaking for the director, and the students, I think, was much more heartbreaking for them.
Kitty, you've been at this over 30 years.
Yeah.
How has building costumes changed in that time?
A lot. And it's changed for several reasons. One of the reasons is the students are not coming to us with any skills at all on a sewing machine. So they have to start off very basic, and it's taking us longer to get students ready to leave. When we've always prided ourselves in Oswego that we were able to turn out really good technicians in all places, but it's been difficult with again, and I'm not slamming the high schools or anything. I'm not trying to do that. I just believe that because it's not readily available to them, they don't know that they could do these things. And some of them learn about it late and wind up, going out, and we try to get them into places that they can work or start some of these things. Because beginning designers need to understand how these things go together. I mean, I don't know if you've been in New York City, but most of the houses that I worked with, and another one of my alums, and Emo, she, they're closed. They're not there anymore. And those are the places you just start out. You start out being shoppers. You start out being, the person who just sews really simple things and keep going from there. So it's difficult. It's a difficult issue.
Is it closed because of the pandemic, or it had closed before?
Oh, they closed before, like Barbara Matera's closed early. I think Parson Mears is still open. The couple of them are still open. But, I've got a friend right now. I don't think you know him. Another alum, Joe Sigliano, has been working with a lot of movies and films since he graduated, went to New York City for a while. And then he met a lovely lady who is a comedy writer, and they went over to LA, and she's still writing comedy, and he now does movies. So he does the wardrobe. He's the point person for wardrobes. He just finished, what was that? It's a movie that's up for a lot of Academy Awards with Gary Oldman in it. Mank. He did. He did the.
I still have to see. Have you seen it yet, Ellen?
No, not yet.
Now when we watch it, we'll feel a little more connected to it.
It's great because what Joe did, Joe turned around and did all of he working with his designers. The designers already know that Joe can dress the extras. So besides Joe doing all the bits and pieces for her to do this Meg, he did a lot of the extras. So there was, he's good at it. But he's now working in New York City, and he's putting together they are taking over a section of a building in, I think it's Long Island City, he said. And he's setting up two floors, entire costume shop that he's going to be there for the next 2 years, I think he said. But he's setting it up. So you don't have the shops there. So they have to bring the stuff in for the shops. So it's become a little difficult.
So if somebody is graduating and they've been working in a costume shop in college.
Hmm.
What's their next step?
Well, we try to get them into wardrobe. We try to get them to it again. This was a pandemic, is like God knows what's going to be there at this point. But we usually start them off as trying to see if we can get them into wardrobe. At a summer stock place at the Rev, which was the merry-go-round down in Auburn. It's now called the Rev, and that's a really good beginning place, or some other summer theater in other places, and that's a good starting point for them. It really is. And again, like I said, we've had people previously in the past that have been actors first, wind up coming to the costume shop and really enjoy what they're doing. So it's had them in. One is in Portland, Maine now. He's directing, but he started off because he's a graphics designer and he knew how to sew. So they hired him because he could do a number of things. So
Huh.
so Portland Stage liked him so much they kept him for 5 years, and then he said, "I got to go to the city for a while." And so he went to the city for like 2 years, and they wooed him back. So he's back now at Portland Stage.
And Kitty made a few references. I'm an Oswego alum, and I didn't have the pleasure of working with Kitty.
Nope.
You came after I graduated. And I
Yes.
think it was Mary Beth Mann. Was that it? Mary, who was there before? Was that her last name?
Mary Beth Mann was there. She and
And Stone.
Diane.
Not Diane Hems.
Yes. No, not Diane Hems. No, this is other Diane. She does props for Woody Allen and a couple of other films in New York City.
Because Diane Hems was at school there before me, and then she's a librarian now.
Mary Beth was there, and she showed me all around Oswego and took me to Syracuse to see which back then there were so many fabric places to go to get things. And there's Joanne Fabrics now. And I think one other place in Jamesville.
How so? I see here are the
Sorry.
is where do you buy material now?
Pardon me?
Where does one buy material now? Ellen, do you know of any places? It seems like the old fabric stores are gone.
Right. And yeah, there used to be some great fabrics. There's a little old Jewish guy that was down right in the main district on Salina Street. It was fabulous. I went there to buy some stuff for we were doing King and I. Okay, so I wanted to get some stuff for Anna. And he wouldn't sell me all the fabric. I sell this great fabric. I was supposed to make this great dress to put into crinoline, and he wouldn't sell me all of it. He says, no. I have other women who come in here who have these wants this fabric too. So you can't have all of it. And I'm like, I'm going to take all of it. I'm going to use it. He wouldn't let me. He wouldn't let me take it. And they're, come on, man. What? Nope.
Oh, dude, we got a show to do here.
Right. Yeah. I got a show to do. So what's the problem here? No, you can't have it.
In general, is it harder to get material now than it was 5, 10, 15 years ago?
Yes. We spend a lot of time ordering from like Thai Silks, which is in San Francisco, for any kind of silk fabrics we want. Sometimes there's a couple of mills further to the north of us where the wools are. So it takes us, it's not that easy to find stuff.
Why?
Does that play in?
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Ellen.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, does that play into how a lot of times, especially in professional theaters, some costumes are built and a fair amount are rented? Like, what goes into that decision of what costumes get rented, what gets built?
What goes into that depends upon time, money, and effort, so if you have to rent stuff, and if you're doing an opera, a lot of times you rent the chorus. Sometimes you build the leads. And then again, it depends if it's like you've got 3 weeks with these people, and you've got to worry about that. So yeah. As far as university goes, we have stock, and the stock we try to reuse and redo it. So we're pretty good at changing things in and out. And that's what happens. But if you're talking about like a Broadway show, when I worked at Matera's, everything was built. I mean,
Mhm.
everything, absolutely everything was built. Nothing. I take that back. There were some pieces that they would bring in from a rental shop, but that was far and few in between. And it depends upon, sometimes if it was a TV show, they would say, okay, let's do this, but they would spend the time to make the trim work for whatever the show was.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So Matera's I really liked Matera's. It was a great place. So yeah.
Did you have a follow-up question, Benita? I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's all yours.
Oh, are we at that? We are at that time. So the ending of our show is called the close-up segment, and it's questions all about you, Kitty. So
Oh,
are you ready for your close-up?
oh Lord. Okay.
So Kitty, what was the moment in your life when you just knew that you wanted to be involved in theater?
Boy, boy, boy. Well, the moment. Okay, that would have to go back to when I was 16 years old and I was doing summer stock. My mother had said that I needed to go take acting lessons because otherwise, how could I be a good lawyer? So I basically then I was tried everything. I tried acting. I tried a little bit of. I even started singing there, and so I got into a musical, and um, that's when I started looking at the costumes, saying, "How hard can this be?" So, and so I was helping with the costumes, but and then took it further. My mother said, "Okay, so." I went on to college for history and English and that sort of stuff because I figured that's what a good lawyer is going to need to be able to do. Well, I wound up finding myself, being helping a designer out doing Rex Galileo, and I had no idea. My mother said to me, she said, I kept saying, I need to know how to sew. And she's because I took a sewing class when I was went on first year of high school. And she said, you don't need to know how to sew. You're going to marry a rich man. What do you need to know how to sew for? Okay. And so, yeah. And so I didn't know how to sew, but I figured, okay, how hard can this be? So took the actor and started, put him on the ground and drew around him and said, okay, I guess this will work. And I'm like,
That's great.
now I would cringe if I told anybody that I could put you on the floor and draw around you. And I remember the one that was that show as he had handed me brocade fabric. I didn't know what the hell brocade fabric was at that age. I mean, it's like, okay, I needed this job because it was a good work study job. So I said, okay. So I cut two left sides out of the brocade. So you know how brocade has a right and a wrong side.
Mm.
So I cut two left sides out of the
Oh,
Pope's cape. And I was like, oh. So he went back and got some more. He was very patient with me. And I
Learning
said,
on the
this is
job.
yeah, this is great. I said, this is great. It's fun. And I really that's probably about the best time I knew when I went the summer stock deal and that time at college. Needless to say, my mother was very disappointed that I did not become a lawyer.
There we go.
There you go.
we're going to do a mother show one day.
Yeah, yeah.
She kept saying she was very adamant about me getting an education and trying to get an ed degree because I had to have something to fall back on. Okay, and
Mm.
I got mad at her and I said no. I said what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to grad school. In grad school, I'm taking care of that. So because I didn't have that much training when you get right down to it. So,
Yeah.
but I did an awful lot. Like I said, I was doing stuff as I went, and I learned by doing as I did. So yeah, how's that?
That's fantastic. What is the wildest thing you've ever designed? Is there just a costume that really sticks out to you that was unlike any other?
Hmm. Well, I can't say that. Well, I guess I could. There was a show that we did called The Enchanted Pig, and so we had to build a pig costume. And he had to be big, and he had to be in a suit, and he had to have spats on his feet, and he was an enchanted prince. So I will have to say that I designed it, but it was my shop supervisors and his one of his friends that actually built that and did a good job of it. And his friend is been in LA designing scenery, so it was good because we had built big foam heads for them and for all of the characters, and it was called The Enchanted Pig, and it was a Mark Cole show. So it was like off the wall. Everybody else was in white. You know? And it was all black and white. You know, every director's got to do at least one black and white in their lives. So, and Mark said, "Yep, this is mine."
And to wrap it up, we talked to a lot of people. Our listeners sent in their costume malfunction stories because most actors have one.
Mhm.
Is there one in particular that you know of an actor that had a real tricky time with the costume on stage?
Not necessarily tricky time with the costume, but didn't wear his underwear.
Oh, we were saying on our last episode, it's all about the undergarments.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he didn't wear his underwear, and he turned around. He had such a tight pair of pants on, and I kept saying, you have to wear your underwear," and he split out the seam. He
Ooh.
split out the seam. That was one. Again with the underwear. There's another one I did at the opera with Susan Sue. It was Aida, and we have the multiple soldiers you have to dress, and here am I doing makeup for this makeup and wigs, and the one guy was drunker than a skunk. Oh my god. he yeah, he did not he went the opposite way of the rest of the group. But prior to that, I sent one of the assistants over to do his makeup. We had to base him, his legs and his body, and because that's what you're supposed to do. And she couldn't do it. She reached up to do his legs, and she froze. And I said, "What's the matter?" And she said, "He doesn't have any underwear on." I said, "I'll do it. I'll take care of it." So, oh, it was a stitch. It was just a stitch. The man could not do anything right. I just like, how, where did they get this Yahoo? Yeah. So there you go.
Oh, that's why I love costumers. You guys put up with so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it has been so lovely talking to you, Kitty. Thank you so much for joining us. This has just been a delightful conversation.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate that. And it's
And
been
for
fun.
It's to a whole nother world.
It's been fun. It really has. Thank you guys. Thank you, Benita.
Kitty, thank you so much and all best, because Kitty is we're calling it a career at Oswego.
Yeah. I'm going to retire next spring.
Oh.
You're not leaving the sewing behind completely, are you?
No, I've got my knitting on the floor beside me right now. I've been knitting, and I'm still like doing some things, and who knows what I'll do. I mean, who knows?
Designer for hire now.
Probably.
It's been a pleasure, Kitty. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And I'm Benita Zahn.
And I'm Ellen Cribbs. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch you next time.